Hello, Hoosier Nation. Go to thehoosier.com and take advantage of the 50% off for the first month, then 50% off on the first year of your subscription. You will get wall-to-wall coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers from Alec Lasley, Zach Browning, and the Coach Shannon Griffith on the Hoosier Football Tailgate, all on the Hoosier. Come.
Hello again, everybody. I'm the Coach Shannon Griffith, and welcome to another edition of the Hoosier Football Tailgate, all right here on the Hoosier.com. Appreciate you joining me, and as we hit off the show tonight, remember, $1 for your first month, 50% off on your first year for the Hoosier.com, powered by On3, and it's been a crazy week when you think about all these top branded services like On3 and them buying Rivals now. So that ends the Rivals soiree into continuing their services and adds to the service that you go get right here of the coverage on On3.com as well as the Hoosier.com. So get your subscription. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube pages. You can follow me on the Hoosier Tailgate on Twitter, as well as Coach Griff 55. And we're just going to have a very good evening here. We're going to do some things. The Hoosiers lost out this evening, or this afternoon, I should say, on the big commitment from the Brody McCorder kid out of Georgia. He went on to Mississippi State with his commitment. We'll talk a little bit about that. It would be nice to the Hoosiers to get that commitment and such. So I don't know where they actually stood in the process with him. I know Mississippi State probably came down to money and what they could provide up front and things of that nature. Appreciate it, my man. Hope things are well for you out there in the great world we live in, and you're doing well. But the one thing with recruiting nowadays, it's such a crazy game, even more so because of the money involved, things of that nature. And so the Hoosiers right now are looking for a quarterback. If you had a chance today's on On3.com, Steve Wilfong had a great kind of a article on where the Hoosiers are at in the recruiting area and some of the things that are going on there. I know from a quarterback perspective, kid out of Ohio, Bernhard, is one name to keep an eye on. I know that he's committed to Appy State, but the Indiana has offered him. And I know that they have also are very interested in a kid out in California, Mission Viejo, Luke Fay. And we'll get a chance here in a second to maybe take a peek at Nathan as we go on this evening if we have some time. But the biggest thing with all that is the fact that Indiana has their backup plan per se, but these are the things that you can have. But the biggest thing is Indiana has just been on fire in terms of where they're at with all their commitments and portal transfers and things of that magnitude. It's just been on point ever since spring ball kind of ended. And I think Indiana has done quite well thus far with 6 commitments. And we'll talk a little bit more on that as we get going here this evening. And But, you know, yeah, it was tough to miss Brody. I'd like to have that kid. I think he's a good kid to have around. I think he would have been a great fit in Shanahan's offensive scheme as well. But, hey, you win some, you lose some, you move on. I always had a saying in recruiting, you cannot worry about the ones that get away. You have to worry about the ones you can get. And if you spend too much time worrying about guys that went other places, you're going to lose out on the guys that have a distinctive interest in you. And the Hoosiers have a huge weekend coming up this week with some official visits in town. And so you got to be focused and on top of things. So once a kid makes a decision, they move on and go away, so to speak. But that doesn't mean they lose touch. Remember, like I said, you got to get them to December to get the sign, because anything can happen in that with that tonight. I'm going to bring on my first guest here, if I can do this right. It's never easy with me and my aspects of adding people to the a thing there.
Oh, let me.
Yeah, I got some nice color bars there. Aaron.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear, my man.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me. I'll just switch it to my FaceTime camera.
Well, whatever. You got plenty of time here as we were. There we go. Hey, there he is.
Well, there. All right.
Mr. Indiana Sports Connection himself. That's what I like to say. I've always liked your background. I think you did a heck of a job. You're a pretty good.
You can say it. I'm an intense guy. I get excited, overly excited about that.
I got some work to do done on my back end, but very nice job. As you guys can see, this is Aaron from Indiana Sports Connection. Great YouTube channel. Make sure you get over there and follow his site. He brings a lot to the table in coverage of Indiana Hoosier athletics. It's just not a football site. He does it all. Basketball, you name it. If it's in the news, he's going to cover it. But wanted to bring Aaron on tonight because I figured we get a chance to
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're going to expand this Hoosier Tailgate in the near future, if not here in a couple weeks or so. Aaron's going to come on and kind of be a quote-unquote co-host or the host with me here on the Hoosier Football Tailgate, and as a part of the On3 Sports site as well. But Aaron, for my guys, I'm sure there's a lot out there that know who you are, but there may not be. So why don't you kind of give us a little background on you, your channel, all that good stuff. I know you live up here next to me up in the northeast part of Indiana. And so kind of give a little bit of background on everybody.
I'm just a huge IU fan and always have been. I mean, I really started my channel. The first video I made really that got a lot of views was just me really ripping Mike Woodson, and that's really where it started from. And
so you're one of those guys.
It was I think, and then it just kind of grew from there. People really just lived vicarious through the way I was complaining about what was going on with the basketball team, and that's really it. I played a lot of sports growing up. I had a scholarship to play golf at Indiana, but I don't really want to go into that. I really screwed that up. Through a lot of just not being mature enough to do stuff like that back then. But I'm looking forward to coming on with you Tuesdays and Thursdays and talking some football and, being able to bounce some questions off of you and stuff like that, because I've watched or looked at your background and everything like that. I will say today I was really thinking, because I saw that CJ West and Curtis Rourke both went to, so I had a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
Curtis Rourke and CJ West both went to the 49ers. And I was thinking, well, that for Curtis Rourke, I mean, do you think he would be able to kind of go up to the next level and be a backup in the NFL? I mean, I know Brock Purdy was the very last pick in the draft and has seemed to really find a home there. But just what are your thoughts on that? Because it's I don't know. I could see him starting there, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Curtis had that partial ACL tear that he dealt with all last year, unknown to many of us, as it pertains to that typical injury. And had he not had that injury, I think he would have been drafted. I think he would have been, in the mix with some of those guys in the mid rounds. But, the best thing for Curtis is being a Canadian boy. He also got drafted in the CFL as the 25th pick overall. And I want to say Saskatchewan Roughriders got his rights. So he's got some options on the table there. Of course, he's probably going to definitely head to the NFL and give it a shot there first. But, I think it'll be a good spot for him in terms of what they are offensively, because it'll fit his talent, with his ability to be accurate with the football and throw some, the touch passes and such, and do all the things that we saw him do just in 1 year. I mean, here. So I do think he's got some potential there in San Francisco. His brother was with the Jacksonville Jaguars and a couple other teams for a few years in the NFL, and then he eventually ended up in the CFL. But yeah, I think he's got a chance there in San Fran. And with quarterbacks, you never know. I mean, if they decide to make a decision that doesn't keep him around, there's always a probability he gets picked up somewhere else. But definitely him. And of course, you mentioned CJ. He was awesome. And I know that Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator, was, thought he would go earlier, but he had a interview that I retweeted on my Hoosier Tailgate Twitter feed of Bryant talking about CJ. And it's if you got a chance, go look it up, because he gives a pretty good breakdown in a microcosm of what are CJ's strengths and stuff. And it was a pretty awesome, detailed analysis of CJ. And I think the biggest shock of this overall, mostly, was probably that Jalen Walker wasn't drafted. That one surprised me, because there was a lot of talk about him. He had visited like several teams, for in-person interviews, and they don't just throw those out because they're trying to get a gauge on a guy. And I don't know if his shoulder issues that he's had and, injury, that shoulder that he had off and on during this, here at Indiana, whether that may have played a part in him not becoming a draft pick. But overall, it was great to see those guys get drafted, especially CJ. That was an incredible feat to go where he went, and that both of them are going to be there. So, I mean, again, it's a tribute to what Coach Cignetti has brought in via the transfer portal. And he is a production over potential guy when he looks at these transfers. And I think he stole another one in this Kellen Watt kid out of Maryland that's coming in. He's
the high school.
Well, he played at Maryland last year. Against Indiana. He had 5 solo tackles and a sack. And I think he's going to be a steal, and potentially the Daly kid again, also from Kent State, where CJ's from. Those two transfer guys on defense have a great opportunity to come in and be right in the mix of things. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a ruckus defensive unit as a whole. And
that's huge. I mean, the way he's bringing in guys from, Maryland, since they've been in the Big Ten, they've kind of been like a thorn in Indiana's side. I mean, they're
right.
certain teams, like, we just couldn't. I mean, I don't like to say this, but we couldn't get over the hump with some of those
Well, you
those
said
teams. And
right. Those are the teams you have to beat if you're going to be a team that's going to be bowl eligible. You know, you're going to have to beat the likes of Maryland and Northwestern on, on years, or even a Rutgers. And then you have to, to get to that next level, you got to go to Iowa next year and beat Iowa on the road and beat Illinois at home. Those type of games that really bump you up in the eyes of everyone, media included. But, it's going to be fun having you on. I do appreciate you willing to do it. And cause I know you've got, young ones running around the house, you're working and all that. But here's the thing, you were filling me in. You spent 10 years out on the East Coast a little bit chasing the comedian circuit.
Yeah, I did. I lived in Hackensack, New Jersey, and I lived in Hoboken, New Jersey for 8 years. And I worked in the West Village for a long time. I really did. I worked for a development company there for a long time and had my real estate license and built all these buildings around like Newark. And then at nighttime, it's so expensive to live there. I'll tell you, that's why I moved. It's just, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, I always worked there in the daytime. I worked at a restaurant at night, and then I'd go and do my stand up after I got out of the restaurant at like 11 o'clock at night. And, just started doing open mics, and it was just a dream like I always had. And it took a while. I mean, it took a couple of years of really process. People don't realize how long it takes to even develop like 2 minutes of jokes could take 3 months of writing and this type of thing. So all that, it just kind of helped me. I went to school for advertising, and unfortunately, like after I got out of school, I was working in that field, and it was the 2008 financial crisis happened. And it seemed like everybody in that, if any company is going to drop anything first, they're going to drop their advertising budget as soon as like things hit the bricks. So I just kind of got tossed out of that, and I went in like a different direction. But
what year did you graduate from Indiana?
I did. I went to USF in Florida.
That's right.
I moved
you
down
went to
there.
USF. I had that mixed up. I had that mixed up with somebody else. But so you spent 8 years out there, came back but you're from Northeast Indiana. So you kind of broaden your wings as it pertains to not being afraid to fly out of the nest, so to speak. That takes a lot of courage, especially right after getting out of school.
Yeah, it makes you realize it's all about like networking yourself. Cause I lived in Tampa for 3 years before I moved to the East Coast. And that was like a totally different, very nice. Love the weather. The heat can get you,
Yeah, it's a different environment down there. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, there's your favorite backup quarterbacks. Steve DeBerg. Yep. Like him. He spent a lot of years in the journey, and Dave Craig he also spent a lot of time in the league. Those guys are not making the money like the guys are now, though. Those guys were, a 12-pack on the team bus on the way home was probably about as good as they're going to get salary in terms of that stuff. But no, I appreciate you wanting to do this. And again, I know you have a love and a passion for Indiana, and I got, involved in doing Indiana coverage since I was doing some other stuff with media up here in Northeast Indiana, just by somebody contacting me that, knew my son had played at Indiana. And
okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Isaac is his name. He was there from 13 to 18. He blew his knee out at Penn State and never recovered. So he ended up having to give it up right before his junior and senior year. But speaking of Florida, he's in Orlando. He also lived in Tampa for a while. But
okay.
Yeah. So we're just going to have a little bit of fun with it all. I think you will bring a different, unique mindset to it all. And like I said, you can follow all your stuff over at the Indiana Sports Connection. If that's some people didn't know where you were, quote unquote, located, but I do appreciate that fact of the matter is that you're going to bring an element too from a different perspective in terms of a guy that does, I guess we call it content creators.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, right. So we'll get those fancy words together. But
Yeah.
you were telling me too, and before I let you go here, because I only wanted to keep you for a little bit tonight, but
No,
you were
you're
talking
good.
about
You're good.
advertising and doing some things like that, but you have really got into the editing aspect of video as well. And I know you spend a lot of time doing that. I told you that in order for me, I just do it live, because if I screw up, I screw up. I'm not going to worry about going back and edit it over or start over and do it again. But you got into the editing aspect of everything too.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the part of it. Well, I had another channel called Ginger Stash Golf Company, and it was like nobody was watching it, but I was really teaching myself how to edit videos. Like I would like add the tracers in like after
Yeah.
we hit the shots and all of that. And well, for a while I really just did not want to like get in front of a camera. It is like it is not fun. It was very uncomfortable. Totally different than standing in front of
I was
like
gonna say,
real
wait a minute, you
people.
stood up, you standing up in comedy.
It is like it just in a small room with, the Comedy Cellar only fits maybe 120 people in it. So it's like, and it's a dark room. You can't see all their eyes, but yeah, it's been a process, but yeah, I really fell in love with the editing part. And then once I kind of started to see where I could add jokes in, yeah, add the hillbilly monkey in, and like they, most people don't know, and I'm gonna say this on here: the hillbilly monkey character was part of my stand-up bit. I used to come out, and people in the city just love this type of stuff. I used to come out in like a plaid shirt, like button-up shirt. I'd be holding a Budweiser, and then I'd talk like in this hillbilly, and I called myself. I called myself Hillbilly H Hoosier, and I'd like come out on stage and I'd do this whole bit where I was like this real podunk guy. But I mean, I threw a lot of crap against the wall when I was doing stand up just to see what would make people laugh and what would work or what would not work, and so yeah, it's
Yeah.
and then
Well,
I had a real void in my life when I moved back here to Indiana, and then I wasn't doing like any type of creative anything, and I was like just kind of found this YouTube and yeah, I was just like kind of falling in love with the whole editing process and all that type of thing.
well, like I said, I think you do a great job in that arena, as your shows have been very entertaining to watch along with other content creators out there, especially those that, have a passion for Indiana athletics as we all do. And, with this and being live and stuff is, like I said, I like it from the standpoint if guys have questions and, about something that they have want to know, be it, off-season questions, in-season questions. That's where I like the engagement to be. And you never, like I said, you got a question already about the hillbilly monkey going to make an appearance here and there. So we'll never know. But
yeah, I
now
couldn't get
you
a
cover
segment.
more than just Indiana, though, correct? I mean, you cover some Colts here and there at times.
I did
do
a
you?
little bit at the beginning, but then I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna leave that up to other Colts channels. I might make a video here or there about the Colts, but it's practically just Indiana football. And I've always been a huge just Indiana football fan. I'm not the I root for Notre Dame on the side a little bit, but
That's a
like me and
Northeast
my dad
Indiana
have always
thing.
been like watching the IU, but I know there's a lot of, the double sided shirt crowd or whatever they call it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's been a rough go for Indiana football. So this last year, I mean, I'm excited to do this show. And I mean, this last year, like me and my dad went to the Michigan game, and it was just unbelievable. The amount of excitement. I mean, we'd never seen anything like it. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pumped to be on here with you. And
Yeah. Coach Signetti turned B-Town on their head. I mean, he came in talking a lot of stuff.
he did.
Google me. And
Yeah.
he backed it up. And I know people talked about, well, their schedule was this or their schedule was that. Hey, look, he wasn't here when the schedule was made. He just did, he coached the guys that he brought in and had involved in the program and lined up each and every Saturday, not even knowing who they're going to play probably, and just said, let's play the next man up. And, it was, like you said, it was a whirlwind of a season, and seeing with what the excitement he brought back into Bloomington that has never been seen before in football. I'm a big Bill Mallory fan and coached with his son, Kurt, when I was at Ball State, who's the head coach at Indiana State now. And Coach Mallory, he was there for a long time and had a lot of successful teams over the years. But I just don't think there's been an excitement like this in a long time. And then add into the point of Indiana basketball, where you've got the two main sports of the athletic department on a high right now. And the excitement is like busting at the seams. I've never seen a fan base get so involved now in two sports at Indiana. It was usually just one. Basketball, and if football was good enough, okay, but now there just seems to be a big, big, big thing of wanting to see this monumental possibility of having the two top sports earners get off to a great start and continue. John says, Indiana, enjoy your show. Keep up the good work. Well, I can second that, John. And for those that are wondering, he will continue his destiny at Indiana Sports Connection as well, because it's I'm just kind of borrowing him here and there for my own personal wants and desires.
And I've been wanting to do more live content. That is one thing I have shied away from, but I've been trying to like ramp that up and do more and more. But yeah, it's both what you said about the coaches. I mean, getting two coaches, and I mean, by all accounts, I think DeVries is really making a believer out of a lot of people. And then to have, two come in kind of side by side, and where Indiana and football and basketball were just kind of a mess here for a little while. So I'm excited to see it. I mean, last year, the Michigan State game, that was really made me a believer, because I always thought the schools like Michigan State, Wisconsin, Iowa, they always got it over on us. And those are the teams, kind of in more towards the top that we just need to beat and couldn't. So that I'm like, this year, the Iowa game, I think that'll be a huge one. But
yeah, there's going to be, there's definitely, the schedule this year will wholeheartedly be different in a lot of ways from last year, even though they still have 7 games as opposed to 8 home games. But they've got a really big grinder of a 3-game stretch between opening up the Big Ten action against Illinois at home. Jake Altemeyer, the quarterback, he is probably a top first round, second round type of draft pick for Illinois. And Illinois had a pretty darn good year last year, but was overshadowed by Indiana, that they're going to come in here with snot bubbles and their ears on fire, hair on fire, because they know that will be a huge game for them and Indiana to get off on the right foot. Then Indiana goes to Iowa, and they just picked up a quarterback from, I think it was South Dakota, and they finally got somebody that can not only run the show, but can throw the rock around a little bit. And their offensive coordinator, who I know, Tim Lester, he's a pretty good offensive minded coach. And even with a mediocre quarterbacks last year, they did pretty darn good overall. And that will be an interesting game, because that will be a huge road test, but not any more so than their trip out west to play the Ducks
Yeah.
in Oregon. So a 3-week stretch there that will say a lot about their season next year, because those are going to be 3 highly touted teams. And I know they don't play I don't think they got Ohio State and Michigan on the schedule, but they do pick up Penn State, which will be another interesting component with Coach, that group of players. Coach Allen left. I mean, that would have been a kind of a unique setup. He took off and went to work for Dabo Swinney at Clemson, but it's going to be an interesting year. Interesting year all the way around, not just football, but basketball wise. Like I said, the excitement that we're seeing from 3 hours away is felt all the way up here in Northeast Indiana when you talk Indiana athletics and everything. So, but look forward to having you on, my man. We're going to get together and kind of hash out when the right time works for you in terms of getting on and getting going. And I know that sounds like from everybody in the chat seems to enjoy having you here with the hillbilly monkey. That's what I like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. He's a bigger star than anybody is.
You're going to have to trademark him. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
In this world. But Aaron, I really do appreciate you agreeing to doing this, and I think it'll be a good time by all, and it'll add another dynamic to the show, and especially with your background and everything to help an old man out.
For sure. I mean, we can have a good, I don't know X's and O's of football. I mean, you being a coach and coaching quarterbacks and all that, I mean, you have a lot more insight into those things. When I do my show, it's very surface level of like, I see this guy, a little, but, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it and learning some stuff about the game. And, we can talk about anything, I mean, my football career was very short. So.
Well, that's the one thing about football and athletics in general. Everybody has an opinion, and, no one's opinion is better than the other, as I always say in football, just because everything changes the next day anyway. So it's a week-to-week proposition, and what you did last week has no bearing on what you have to do the next week, including the fans. Just because you won doesn't mean that the fans are just going to be there patting you on the back all the time. They're going to start expecting more, and that's going to be an interesting dynamic too, is the expectation level.
Yeah.
And the fan base wasn't overly expecting much based on past history.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Coach Signetti caught them all sleeping there for the first 4 or 5 weeks. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we got a football team.
I know. You played some weak teams, and then, you're like 5-0, 6-0 going along. And I mean, I don't know if he can recapture that, but from all accounts, I mean, on different levels of the defense, they have a lot of guys coming back. I mean, Pond's coming back. And boy, his name just escaped me. The linebacker Fisher.
Aiden Fisher, yeah.
Aiden Fisher, coming back. So yeah. I think it's going to be a fun year.
Defensively, it's going to be strong. And then when you look at the offense, I think it's going to be as strong. A loaded running back room with Hemby and Keelan Black and BB, the two that transferred in. And then you've got Mendoza, who today I saw something of a projection that he could possibly be as high as a first-round draft pick. So, you get a quarterback that had the likes of Georgia and other big-time programs wanting him because he's got 2 years of eligibility. That's the key component here. Again, with Surratt back, and you've got a loaded wide receiver room, a couple tight ends, but the biggest thing I think we're going to have is an offensive line that now we can just about say a really good Big Ten offensive line. So we're going to hash it all out. We're going to get together and hash some things out and get ourselves on the same wavelength. But hey, we're just two guys talking. That's all that matters, right?
Right. That's what it's all about.
Aaron, I appreciate you coming on, my man. And do me a favor. Pronounce your last name so I won't butcher it.
Yeah, Webeking. Yeah.
Webeking.
Yeah, those Germans, they like to leave all those extra vowels
well,
in
I'm
there.
German too. It's Griffith. So. Well, I appreciate you coming on, my man. And again, we'll get you on here in the next week or so, and we'll hit it running and get ourselves ready for the season at hand as we stroll down the months of May, June, and July. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like 110 days before I think the first game or something like that. I can't remember, but that's crazy. It'll go so fast. We won't.
Yeah, it'll fly by.
Aaron, I appreciate you guys. Give Aaron a follow as well on his YouTube channel, Indiana Sports Connection. But we're glad to have him a part of the Hoosier Football Tailgate right here on thehoosier.com, powered by On3 Sports. Aaron, we'll talk to you later, my man.
Thank you.
All righty. Aaron, my man, Webeking, being a part of our show tonight. I really appreciate him. And it's going to be a fun thing to have him involved with myself and the Hoosier.com crew. When CJ was at JMU, the fans got upset with him a couple times because he wasn't winning big enough. SIG. Yeah, I got you. When SIG was at JMU. Yeah, well, JMU, they have an expectation of winning. And he went from high expectations to a situation where the expectations was, I hope we can win. And he came in and turned the hope into, we will win, and got everybody in the locker room believing it and then outside believing it. And now it's in a scenario now that things are, like I said, busting at the seams for Indiana athletics in general because of SIG and what he's done in football. You got DeVries coming in to lead a basketball program and what he's done and already shown in recruiting as well. And it's just a really neat thing to see being worked out by Scott Dolson and his crew. They've done a heck of a job. And not only that, but you've got the NIL stuff that has immensely helped Indiana and will continue to help Indiana because Indiana has really put the investment into it, not just the NIL, but the department as a whole. And it's going to be an interesting dynamic here over the next few years because Indiana could all of a sudden be a whirlwind and be a team that has two programs that are at the top of the Big Ten. So that's going to be a complete interesting dynamic as well when we talk about it. Some updates here talking about recruiting news the last couple of weeks. And again, if you got a chance, get over to thehoosier.com. It's $1 for the first month, 50% off for the first year. And you not only get all the content there, but all the information on on3.com with Steve Wilfong, who's their national recruiting analyst there. Hope to get Steve on here at some point through the summer and talk about Indiana recruiting, but you get all that for a great deal. And I think ultimately with that, you're seeing all of this happen in a rather quick fashion when you think about it with this recruiting base. I think that's the one thing that has been a key component as well, is just adding to that foundation. Hope we can teach Brian. Well, yeah, I know. And I've said this before because I'm proud of him and proud of the fact that he was with me for his first year ever coaching college football. And he's done a heck of a job in a short period of time of just being a D coordinator. This is only going to be his third or fourth year as a DC coming up. And what he's been able to put together, not just at JMU, but Indiana, really duplicating what he did at JMU has been nothing short of miraculous. And, hey, there's going to come a time where the opportunity comes along that you get in this profession to be a guy that's a coordinator and then ultimately be a guy that can be a head coach. And if those opportunities come, then I think it'll be a good thing for him. And we'll definitely see that opportunity potentially come, hopefully down the road there. I agree with you on that. But back to the recruiting aspect of things, one thing that, let me get my thing switched over here. We are talking about with some of this stuff is, take that off there real quick. And let's bring up, this commitment list that we've got thus far here. And again, talking about the Hoosier.com, and in the member section there, I'm doing a video breakdown of all the commitments that they've got to date and being added to, whether it's a incoming potential freshman or a transfer. And I do a little breakdown on the pros and things of that nature, and talk about them in general and maybe how they add into the Hoosier program. And right now, Indiana, has done a tremendous job with everything thus far. As you can see, Henry Olinger, he's a kid out of Ohio, Grandview, linebacker, running back, very talented kid, 4-star. He's a 4-star there. Now, he committed to Indiana last week. And again, his video is up on the Hoosier.com. And the only thing that I saw this week that kind of, bothered me a little bit, but hey, kids are kids. He had a pinned picture on his X feed of him and Ohio State offensive coordinator Brian Hartline. And I know that Ohio State has some interest in him. I don't know where that will all fall, but, that's the one I worry about a little bit as well. But right now, Indiana's got them a very good linebacker, and this kid is a player, and he will be another great one potentially to be in Brian Haynes' offense. So, that one I think will be interesting to, hopefully we can get him to December and everything on our side of the coin will come up and we'll be able to sign him. Then Indiana commitment out of Indianapolis, Decatur Central, very good program. Kazmir Hicks, this kid is a dynamite player. Speed, legit speed, great ball instincts. Both a wide receiver, tailback on offense, and then cornerback on defense, and that's what Indiana's recruiting him. And here's the one thing that I always said, because, here's another one that's a potential 4-star, even though he's right now a 3-star in some categories. But these are the type of kids you got to keep in state, these high talented kids that are going to have interest from other Big Ten schools outside of Indiana. You got to keep them at home. Indiana cannot let these kids get away because there's a lot of talent. And while it may only be 6 to 10 kids a year that fit the Power 4 recruiting boards and such, he's one of those guys that I think can be a top tier kid. And Indiana getting him for their secondary again is key, because remember, we don't know what Pounds will do after this year. I mean, probability of him coming out, you don't know, so you got to start preparing for that. And that's why a foundational aspect to your program has got to be built with freshmen. You cannot continue to go into the portal and think you're going to bat 1,000 every time. And you've got to start relying a little bit less on that and a little bit more when you get these kids up to being their, junior and redshirt junior years. And Casimir Hicks is a kid that I think can immediately provide quality depth, if not be coming in as a true first year and vying for playing time. Lawrence Timmons is another young man. He is out of Pennsylvania, another really good high school program out there at Pine Richland. And again, this is right out of Kurt Cignetti's backyard. And if there's anybody that knows Pittsburgh football, Coach Cignetti is the man you want to talk to. And this kid, again, I think is going to be another great defensive pickup, again, at corner. And remember, you got to have corners that cover. And Indiana likes to bring a lot of pressure and put their corners on an island. So he's going to be one of those type of guys. But again, another solid commitment right out of Pennsylvania. A lot of different schools of interest and offered, and Indiana gets his commitment because the kid fell in love with Bloomington when he came on his visit. Samuel Simpson was the first commit of this class, offensive lineman out of the great state of Wisconsin, where they grow them big there. Coach Bobstead knew exactly what he was getting out of this big guy, 6'4", 275. And I look for him to be another big piece of the puzzle coming down the pipe in a couple of years. But again, getting a quality football player that ranks high, especially along the offensive line, another get. And then this last kid here, Jacob Savage out of Ryle down in Union, Kentucky, linebacker, he is Aiden Fisher. I mean, if you want to go look at his video up on the Hoosier.com, that's the first thing that this kid reminded me and how he played was he's Aiden Fisher. He's smart. He is very instinctive, and you have to have that skill at linebacker, and he does a great job of tackling in space, and that's the type of kid you want to have. So again, Indiana off to a great year when you talk about where they're at with their recruiting and such, that they've got a great foundation for this 26 class. And the one kid that Indiana's got coming in this weekend, they've got a big weekend ahead of them. Couple kids, Jerquan Guilford up here in the wide receiver, who it's now down between Indiana, Ohio State, 4-star kid out of Fort Wayne Northrop, my alma mater, 6'2", 180-pound wide receiver. He's got the body of a Big Ten receiver. He's got the athleticism and speed and strength that could be a big, huge get on the outside. Coach Shanahan was up here, I think yesterday, to watch him work out, and as well was Ohio State. So there's a lot of big time schools that are coming in right now. And he's one of the top receivers in the country as it pertains to the recruiting services and such. But he'll be in this weekend. Travis Johnson, I think, is also from Chesapeake, Virginia, is supposed to be on his way in, another 4-star. Big offensive lineman, Cameron Miller, up out of Morton Senior High School up in the Hammond, up in the region. This is a big boy, 6'5", 310. That dude's huge. So just a couple of names out there that Indiana's expecting this weekend. And like I said earlier, Steve Wiltfong put out an article this morning about Indiana in terms of where they are trending with some 2026 commits. Big time player in Indiana, again, Blake Smith out of Franklin, Indiana High School, D lineman. He's got offers from Illinois, Michigan State, Purdue, Wisconsin. And right now, Steve Wiltfong has predicted him as a commit to Indiana. And then this past weekend, they had the Damon Ferguson kid, running back out of Baltimore, Maryland, Milford Academy, a really good academy type of school out there. He came in, had a great visit, list Indiana as his top choice. He's got offers from Pitt, Virginia, North Carolina, Wake Forest, NC State, and there's a lot of them. But right now, he's the 24th running back overall in the nation. And so far, that is another 4-star that's leaning towards Indiana. And we talked about Guilford and that and everything. So Indiana right now is rolling when it comes to the 2026 class. And it's always great to get off to a great start in that regard. The one thing that, let me see here, what Indiana was trying to do with that McWhorter out of Georgia is the quarterback that they wanted to get. Right now, like I said, he's committed to Mississippi State. In that regard of his standard of play, and Mississippi State probably had a lot of money that they could provide him through NIL. But the one kid that they talked about was this kid out of Nathan Barnhart. Let's see here. I'm trying to pull my video up here, and I just got a video of this young man. Let's see if I can get over there to that. Okay, let's see what we got here. We're just going to kind of let this one play out, per se. This kid's a big kid, 6'5", strong arm. Look at this, though. First off, steps into it, about 6'5", so he's a big, strong kid. And I think, again, this is a kid that's committed to App State. This is a great throw. But right now, Indiana, with McWhorter going to Mississippi State, now they're back to this gentleman here and the kid out in Mission Viejo, Fahey, but I don't think they're going to have a chance at the kid out west. So this kid may end up coming to Indiana. He's your typical prototypical quarterback, a little bit like of Mendoza type of stature. And, you know, he can really sling it around, and he comes from a really good high school, good ball over there, and you can see him here. Again, like I tell people, nice throw there, nice touch, as you can see him lay it in over the top. I've yet to see a high school senior put out a highlight tape with any bad plays on it. You can get a feel for them by throwing it. He's standing in the pocket and making some nice throws in terms of touch and stuff. And, you know, again, it's one of those things that Indiana is going to have to, you know, keep plugging away with these quarterbacks. Now, the interesting thing now, look at that shot. Wow. The interesting thing now with everything is the fact that the portal has changed everything when it comes to quarterbacks. And that's the one thing that I think changes how you recruit high school quarterbacks, because the ability to go out and get a seasoned quarterback via the portal isn't that overly difficult thing to do if you need to, because you just need one. And the fact that there's many in there, you know, bodes well. But you still, again, what type of player will Alberto Mendoza be when his opportunity to play comes up? He's going to be so well prepared because he's in a system. He's got familiarity. He's backing up probably his brother right now. Ultimately may get some time and opportunity to play, but he had a great spring. And he's just going to get better and better. So you got to have good recruiting. That's very difficult now because of the portal when it comes to high school quarterbacks, because you need one. And with everything changing in terms of roster sizes and things of that nature, you're probably not going to see too many teams carry more than 5 on their roster. when it comes to quarterbacks, because, you know, you can't keep them all happy. That's the biggest thing. So that's one thing, but he's a kid to keep an eye on. And as we go through here, now that we've gotten that aspect of things figured out when it comes to where they're at with the quarterback position, where they're at overall recruiting, very good. They're in a very good position heading into the summer months. Coach Cignetti's going to have all of his big camps coming up this summer as well. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity to see what type of, whoops here, I'm getting all out of me here. This is where I want. Just to refamiliarize ourselves with all this as well, just a rehash of what we were discussing earlier, guys that are in the NFL right now when it comes to what this draft did. And it was a crazy draft with Shedeur Sanders kind of occupying it all, but CJ West going in the fourth round, great sign for that young man. His deal with the opportunities that he's got in terms of going out there and being a primetime player for them. I know they're excited to have him with all that. And he is going to be one of those guys that can be a big help to the 49ers and what he does. We talked about Curtis and him also going to the 49ers as well as into the CFL, 25th pick overall in the CFL draft. And I do think it was Saskatchewan that he went to there. Miles Price, he set up a sign with the Minnesota Vikings. Good place for him. Another good player. He was an Ohio U portal transfer. Carpenter, another young man that I thought maybe he'd go in the late rounds, but great place for him to go with Jacksonville. Again, very good year here at Indiana. We dig the kid that transferred in from Wisconsin. He's going to LA as a undrafted free agent as well. And Keyshawn Williams, again, another great year last year. And he's heading out to Pittsburgh for him again. And Horton, I thought he ended up at a great spot with him going to Detroit. And Detroit has this knack of picking up guys like Zach Horton, and the next thing you know, they're Pro Bowlers. And now everybody wants, where'd he come from? And you find out that he's an undrafted free agent, and it's like, wow. So really good place for him to end up. And unfortunately, Indiana's going to miss him this year because he did so much in their offensive scheme that it will be hard to duplicate. And then the surprise was Zach Walker not getting an opportunity to, get drafted. There was some thought that he would, but unfortunately, he goes as an undrafted free agent to the Raiders, and it'll be a great opportunity for him out west when it's all said and done with everything. So happy for him and what all he brought to the table for Indiana as well. And I believe that's 2, 4, 6, 8 guys, 2 drafted, 6 unsigned free agents for Indiana. And I do think all of them have a great shot, especially those free agents. I think they have a great shot when it comes to some of that. So keep an eye on those guys. And again, that's a testament to Coach Sig and his group of men, what they did with those guys to put them in the position they did this past year to get out and get going with everything from this last year. So great for him and Indiana as a whole. And I think right now, Indiana is getting to be one of those spots where you can show kids that are those 4 stars and 3 stars, their ultimate goal is to go play in the league. And when you can start showing guys going to the league, being drafted, and then eventually playing in the league, and Indiana's got several guys playing in the league now. it just adds to that repertoire for a coach to walk in and talk about how they're going to prepare this young man to be not only a great student athlete, but also a potential draft pick in the NFL, and have all the backup with guys that have come before these recruits that are in the NFL. It's huge. It's a huge, huge, huge thing to say when you have that opportunity to show a kid that Indiana has got their fair share in the NFL as well. But everything from that standpoint, off to a good start. So the biggest thing right now, there's some portal guys that Indiana's got opportunities with that may pop, may not pop, but I think they're good there with where they're at on defense. I still think they need to find a wide receiver on offense to replace Morris, who blew out his knee and will not be available for the next season. So I think they need to get at least one wide receiver prior to the season starting. But overall, got to be happy where Indiana sits, not with only their guys that are here on campus working out and being a part of this 25 season, but what they've brought in via the portal and what they've got in the foundational aspects of recruiting in this 26 class with 6 commits and a 4-star and some other possible 4-stars in the hopper as well. But a big weekend in B-Town this weekend. And so we'll find out what will all happen there. All you have to do is stay tuned right here to the Hoosier Tailgate on thehoosier.com. Remember, $1 first month, 50% off on your first year for all the coverage you can get, not only of football, but Indiana athletics at thehoosier.com, powered by On3, and not to mention what you get with On3's coverage as well. And they got some of the best recruiting information and boards that you could ever want when it comes to NIL and what a kid's NIL valuation is. So get over there quickly and get your subscription to thehoosier.com not to miss anything. Well, I appreciate Aaron Webeking being a part of the Hoosier Tailgate this evening, as well as in the future, as he's going to join me here to add to our coverage of Indiana football as we strive to be your number one source for Indiana football, not only for the next year, but years to come. I appreciate you joining me here this evening. But for now, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. You've been watching the Hoosier Football Tailgate right here on thehoosier.com.
Hello, Hoosier Nation. Go to thehoosier.com and take advantage of the 50% off for the first month, then 50% off on the first year of your subscription. You will get wall-to-wall coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers from Alec Lasley, Zach Browning, and the Coach Shannon Griffith on the Hoosier Football Tailgate, all on the Hoosier. Come